Okay, y'all, welcome on back. I'm just gonna get into it. Yesterday, September 10th, 2025, conservative podcaster and influencer and the founder of Turning Point USA was assassinated during an event at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. Now, chances are, if you're watching this, you already know exactly what happened. I'll just go through some of the details, but you already have probably seen the footage, which is gruesome and honestly horrifying. He was shot once in the neck by a sniper attack from about 200 yards away. And obviously, if you saw the footage, you know that chaos ensued after that. There were a lot of witnesses. Two people were briefly detained, but they were released. And as of this recording, the individual who carried out the shooting is still at large. Although it seems like they're on his track, they found some evidence. Um, and I believe at this point they're probably going to catch him. I mean, they released some images of him, and they found the rifle that he used to carry out the attack, and they're on his trail basically. But I'm going to talk about the assassination itself, but I'm also going to talk about the broader meaning of this. There's a lot going into this. There's a lot going on here. And I kind of just want to share some thoughts about it. So I apologize if at times it seems like I'm rambling. Some of this might be a little bit of stream of consciousness. I've had a lot of time to think about it, or maybe not that much since it just happened yesterday, but I've been thinking about it. I've been talking to people about it. I talked to my good friend Darvio Mario from the Outlaws podcast on the FCB network, which is also what my podcast is on as well. We had a really good conversation, and it was good to kind of bounce some ideas off of each other. But basically, I'll just go into it. I mean, when I first saw the news, I can't say I was all that shocked. The video itself was shocking because it's not every day that you see somebody get gunned down. Um, but when I saw it, my overwhelming feeling was dread. I felt dread for his wife and children who were there, who witnessed it, which is something that nobody should ever have to go through. And unfortunately, a lot of the dread was based on, I mean, the very real truth that this is really just the beginning. Now, for those who followed me, I disagreed with Charlie Kirk and a lot of other people on a lot of different things. I disagree with a lot of people on a lot of different things, right? Or whether they're on the left or the right. There are some disagreements, but I can't wrap my mind around the notion that somebody who says some things that I might disagree with should be dead. It doesn't compute to me. And I don't think that really computes to most people, to most Americans. But here we are, right? This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Obviously, we've had political violence in this country since its inception. Our country was started on political violence, but this was different because this attack was against an individual. And here's the thing, when I first saw this, I viewed it, and I still do. I viewed what happened to Charlie Kirk as even worse than the two assassination attempts on President Trump. Even if Charlie Kirk had survived, I would still see his as worse. Now, that might not make sense, but let me explain. Here's the thing, President Trump was a former president who was running to become president again, and he was a controversial politician. He is a controversial politician still. So in that vein, it kind of makes sense. The only thing that I was surprised about with Trump was that it didn't happen sooner because of the political environment that we are in right now, with the vitriol and the rhetoric coming from the left against Trump. It was only a matter of time, right? And we've had other presidents who have either been assassinated or people have tried to assassinate them. So we understand this. There's a history of this. So it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't, I'm not downplaying it. I'm just saying it's different from what happened to Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk was not a government official. He didn't set policy. He didn't command any troops. He was not a government official. Now, he certainly had tremendous influence and tremendous influence over policy in a sense, but he wasn't in charge of that. And yet he was gunned down. What he did was he was a professional commentator, like me, with a much bigger platform, obviously. He would go around to college events and he would hold events talking to college students. He would engage in debates with other pundits, just the normal stuff, not something that you would normally have to face assassination for. And the thing is, I posted this on X last night. This nation has been a powder keg for years. It was only a matter of time before somebody actually lit the fuse. If you're like me, if you've been paying attention to politics at least over the past 8, 9, 10 years, you knew something like this was coming because things have gotten progressively worse, more heated, more vitriolic. You've got people using all kinds of hyperbole about their political opponents, and people are more divided into their silos. A lot of that is because of digital media, alternative media, which in and of itself isn't bad, but that has contributed to a lot of it. And the thing is, I think that the seal has been broken, guys. I really do. And I knew that it was going to happen. I didn't expect it to happen to Charlie Kirk, but I did expect it to happen to somebody like him, or maybe even regular people attending a rally, or a political rally, or an event, or a conference, or what have you. This was coming, and I'm not sure how we get out of this because we don't go back. We can't come back from this, at least not right away. Maybe somewhere down the road we can, but this is the state of being for right now. I'm not saying this to fearmonger. I'm just saying this as an observation. I've said this before, but it's even more real now because I believe that this is what's going to kick off a lot of what we're going to see in coming years. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Charlie Kirk was the first, and I'm not saying everybody's going to run around targeting commentators or media personalities, although that might happen. But we've already seen an increase in violence against government officials. I'm actually working on an article. I've been working on it for a little over a month now, and I've interviewed a bunch of different experts on political violence, and all of them expect more of this, and they expect it to spill over into private life, not just against government officials, not just against politicians, but against regular people. We've already been seeing some of it. I think it's going to get worse. I mean, we saw what happened in Boulder, Colorado. A bunch of Jewish pro-Israel rally goers were raising awareness for Israeli and American hostages being held in Gaza as the war is going on. And some lunatic threw Molotov cocktails at them and killed at least one. We've been seeing more mass shootings. We've been seeing more school shootings, and they're not all politically based, but a lot of them do have politics behind it, right? We had the one at an Annunciation Catholic High School. That was very political as well. And even there's a lot of evidence, which we don't really need a lot of evidence to see that what happened to Kirk was political, but there's evidence that have come out. The shooter allegedly engraved pro-transgender and anti-fascist messages on the cartridges he used while he was carrying out the attack. And I think that when even just one person thinks that it's acceptable to take a life over political disagreements and actually follows through with it, it shows just how polarized that we've become. But it's even worse because it wasn't just this one person who thought it was okay, assuming he acted alone. Because I'm thinking there may have been more to this, but maybe I'll talk about that in a different thing. You also had a lot of people approving of it. Now, we've seen this before. We've seen this before when a high-profile individual gets killed. There are always going to be people on social media who cheer for it. We saw with Luigi Mangione, who killed the United Healthcare CEO. We saw the outpouring of support for him. 10 years ago, I think that still would have happened, but not to the same extent. You wouldn't have had as many people saying, yeah, that was a good thing to do. Just like in this situation with Charlie Kirk. You have a lot of scumbags out there who are celebrating it. And again, you don't have to agree with somebody to not want them to die, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. But the fact is, there has been a disturbing increase in the percentage of Americans, especially young Americans, who believe that at least some level of political violence is acceptable. Now, still, most people on both sides don't agree with political violence, but more and more people are starting to accept this. A lot of it is coming from the left, but there's some on the right too. In Minnesota, you had two Democratic politicians who were assassinated by somebody on the right. And yes, he was on the right. Don't come back at me with that nonsense pretending, oh, Tim Walz appointed him, so he was a Democrat. No, read the news reports. The dude was on the right, and it's okay to admit that he doesn't represent you any more than the guy who killed Charlie Kirk represents most people on the left. It shouldn't even be controversial for me to say that, but I'm sure I'll get some flack for saying that because I've already gotten flack for saying it on X. But still, I think most people understand this. There is a massive disconnect between how Americans interact in real life and how we act online. And this is a good thing. That's the state of things right now. In the real world, when you step outside, when you touch some grass, when you walk on pavement, you see that people who have different political beliefs generally get along. People generally get along. Yes, you hear stories about people cutting off family members and friends on social media and elsewhere because of political differences. But in general, people get along in the real world. I mean, I live in a rural area. Everybody on my street is black, but there's still a lot of white people in the town that I live in. When I go into the city, which around here there's small cities, but whatever. When we go into town, there's a lot of black people, there's a lot of white people. They're not at each other's throats like they are online, which is why I constantly tell you guys to stop falling for the psyop. This isn't what happens online is not real life yet. Because in a lot of these situations, in most of them, maybe even all of them, it's an example of what's happening online seeping into real life. You know, mass shooters, terrorists, domestic terrorists, all of these people are not being radicalized in their own communities. They're being radicalized on the internet. So on the internet, the rules are different. You know, the social media platforms, they reward fringe extremism. They don't encourage discussion the way they probably should. They reward outrage. When I was talking to Darvio, he basically he put it perfectly. You know, a lot of these influencers, politicians, media figures, they're basically outrage peddlers. Like people have become addicted to outrage, and these people are pushers. They're pushermen. Like if you heard the Curtis Mayfield song, Pusher Man. They're pushing this drug on everybody because it gives them dopamine when they own the libs or when they own the cons or if they say something outrageous and they get tons of engagement and they get even paid on X to be more divisive. Nuance doesn't sell, something that I know well, because I know that if I really want to make a lot more money doing what I do, all I have to do is choose one side or the other, go to the extreme, and push those narratives only. Demonize the other side. Make it sound like everybody on my side never does anything wrong. That's how you win. If your goal is to make more money, to get more famous, yada yada yada. The more you insult your opponent, the more dopamine hits you get, especially if you have a lot of people agreeing with you about it. It's addictive. It is addictive. This is scientifically proven. And what we're watching is a form of political outrage addiction. We're always chasing the next fix, and the next fix is whatever the next outrage is. Like Hotep Jesus, you'll see him go on X and he'll say, you know, what are y'all mad about today? What are y'all fighting with strangers about today? Because he understands this. He understands that people are hooked on this stuff, and they package up fear, anger, and division into little packets of content, and they sell it to audiences who keep coming back for their next hit. Just like they're hooked on the drug, they're dependent on the drug dealers to give them their next supply. And the assassination of Charlie Kirk is the result or the culmination of years and years and years of people having this addiction and not letting it get treated, basically. So now we are in a situation where we have crossed the Rubicon. This is going to be the state of play. This is going to be the new normal for a while. I'm not saying that people are going to be getting gunned down every week or every day or whatever, but we are going to be seeing more of this. And I'm not sure when we will ever get out of it. It's dangerous for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, there's the loss of life, people getting hurt. But here's the thing, political violence is never just about the victim, it's about the message. The person who killed Charlie Kirk probably had some personal animus against him, a political and personal animus, obviously. But the message is that you're not allowed to say the things that Charlie Kirk said if you don't want to risk getting killed. And it's not just Charlie Kirk. A lot of people in my line of business get threatened or get death threats. I've gotten a few death threats. I haven't gotten as many as others have, but I have gotten them just because people don't like what I say. I didn't take them very seriously and they never manifested, thank God. But this is not the world that we want to live in, is it? It shouldn't be. He was assassinated because people, Kirk was assassinated because people didn't like the things that he said and the things that he stood for. That's what makes this so dangerous. That's why this has such a chilling effect. The point of terrorism is to terrify, right? The point of political violence is to punish and silence people who have views that you don't agree with. And that, ironically, is why continuing to speak out is more important than ever. I mean, Charlie Kirk never incited violence. He never called for violence. He never, if anything, what he modeled was civil discourse. And again, I disagree with him probably on most things, just like I do with a lot of other people. But one thing I can say for him is that he modeled civil discourse. He wasn't out there trying to incite violence like some other folks. He was just talking to people who disagreed with him. Nothing wrong with that. The notion that somebody could get killed for that is scary, but it shouldn't be scary to the point to where we shut up. Now, having said that, I don't see that happening. What I'm seeing, especially online, are people who are doubling down, which in a sense is a good thing. Don't let these people, intimidate you into silence. If you've got something to say it. If I agree with it, I'll agree with it. If I disagree with it, I'll disagree with it. And we can come and reason together. It doesn't matter if we agree on everything, but what we should all be opposing is the use of physical violence to force one's views on somebody else. Now, in that vein, I don't want to be all, doom and gloom and stuff like that. I do think that we're in for some bad times. And I've been saying it for years. I mean, people often ask me, Jeff, do you think things are going to get better in America? And I do. My answer is always, I do think things will get better, but they're going to get worse first. Because we are on a trajectory that I don't think that we can turn around anytime soon. I mean, we have the ability to do it, but it's not likely. A lot of us are stuck in our echo chambers. We have influencers and politicians and personalities who get rewarded for dividing us. They have us at each other's throats so that we don't see what they are doing. I've been saying this for the longest time. This isn't even a tinfoil hat thing. I think most people can see this. Who benefits from us being at each other's throats? Who benefits, from racial division, from division over LGBTQ issues? The men and women or the gender wars or whatever you call that. Who benefits from it? Do you benefit from it? Because I don't. I haven't seen anybody who does, except the people who are running this country. And I'm not just talking about the government for once. I'm talking about the government, the elites, the powerful class. They're the ones who benefit from this stuff. If you and I are at each other's throats, it doesn't affect them. It affects you and it affects me. And that's it. Or maybe some people around us. We have to start reversing this trend because these people are only expanding their power at our expense. And we don't notice it because we are looking at the wrong enemy. Your enemy is not a Republican. Your enemy is not Democrats. Your enemy isn't black people. Your enemy isn't white people. Your enemy isn't straight people. Your enemy is not LGBTQ people. Your enemy is not men. Your enemy is not women. Your enemies, you've got two enemies that you don't realize. And if you're a Christian, this first one should resonate. Your real enemy is not of flesh and blood, right? You know where I'm going with this. Your real enemy is not flesh and blood. These are principalities. These are spiritual forces that have arrayed themselves against you and against God. That's your first enemy. Now, I know not everybody is a believer watching this, but still, if you're a believer, you should know better. Like the guy across your neighbor who voted for Kamala Harris, that ain't your enemy. It's something else. The second enemy are the people in power who follow those principalities. And I'll say it, those demons who do their will because they benefit from it. They get power. And I'm not trying to get all wonky on here. I'm not trying to get all spiritually deep on you guys, but I've got to take it there. I'm going to preach a little bit, right? There are people in this world, not just in this country, who amass great power by doing great evil. Those who want to rule over us at our expense, those who view us as livestock. And if they can pit us against each other to the point to where a man like Charlie Kirk can't speak his mind on a college campus without being killed, then this system is working for them. They have succeeded. And they have succeeded because we are distracted by our outrage addiction. And to me, that's what's the most dangerous here. So like I said, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. There is a silver lining. I did say that I think it's going to get better, but it's only going to get better when we finally get sick of it, guys. I mean, there has to be enough people who get tired of it and finally say, you know what, this is enough. We outnumber these people who are hell bent on dividing us. And yet they get the loudest microphone. So we think that they reflect most people in whatever group we're talking about, and they don't. They don't. That purple haired feminist that is yelling and holding signs, she doesn't represent everybody on the left, even on the far left. I've had conversations with people on the far left that think that stuff is crazy. I think their political beliefs are crazy too, but at least they're not crazy. Just like, the people who are more white nationalists, white supremacists, who get associated with people on the right, most people on the right don't like them. They don't represent you. We are the people who are not on either fringe are the ones who are going to be responsible for pushing back against this. So here, I mean, I think there are some things that we can do to mitigate the damage that's about to come, or maybe even reverse it and prove me wrong. I think we need to, like I said, we need to keep speaking out, even when it's scary, even if we're getting threatened. They can't get all of us, right? The only way to defeat political violence is to refuse to be silenced. The way you stop a bully is by standing up to that bully. Also, we got to look at the younger generation. I mean, one of the things that Darby and I talked about were the young people who really looked up to Charlie Kirk and were really following him. They have to be hurting right now because their leader was gunned down for no good reason. And we don't want those people becoming radicalized, right? When I mentioned the studies showing that, political violence is becoming more acceptable to a lot of Americans, the numbers were really disturbing among younger people on the left and the right. More on the left, according to the studies, but still quite a bit on the right among younger people. We need to be present for them as the people who are a little bit older. I ain't old, but people who are a little bit older need to guide them the right way, because if they don't, then they could easily fall into even more dangerous radicalization. Another thing that we can do is look for common ground among people who we disagree with. And you know me, I disagree with both parties. I don't like either of them. I want liberty, right? But to me, in order to achieve that, I have to be willing to talk to people who may not be where I'm at, to people who may think that the government's more of a solution than it should be. I'm not going to get anywhere by yelling at them. I'm not going to get anywhere by insulting them. I'm not going to get anywhere by demonizing them. And I sure as hell am not going to get anywhere by inciting violence against them. That doesn't help anybody except for the people who want to rule over us. I think another thing that we can do is to be more vigilant. I've attended a lot of political events. I've been to multiple CPACs. I've been to, other conservative events, and nothing happened. But in some of those cases, something could have happened. I tend to be armed most places where I go. If you know me, you know I'm a very big supporter of gun rights and the Second Amendment. So there aren't many situations where I will go to something and not be armed. But even then, you got to understand your surroundings, especially going forward, because like I said, Charlie Kirk's death was just the beginning. When you go into a building, know where the exits are, know where you're going to go if something jumps off, watch for red flags, arm yourselves. I mean, that's it. The government's not going to be there to save you. I mean, in some cases, maybe they will if you get lucky. That's good. But chances are they're not. They're going to be there to clean up and to solve the crime and find out who did it and put that person behind bars. But you're still dead. So that doesn't really benefit you, right? So we got to be more aware of what we're doing. I know that the event that Charlie Kirk was at didn't have much in the way of security based on what I've seen. And I understand why, because this hadn't happened before, right? I mean, you might have some fist fights between like the Proud Boys and Antifa and Trump supporters and Antifa and whatever, but nothing that rises to this level. But that's got to change. And I don't think I even need to say that. I think that's already gonna happen. I think there will be a lot of lessons learned. The other thing is just we got to stop. We got to break this addiction to outrage. It would be better if we got more of a dopamine hit from engaging with people who don't agree with us and finding some common ground and having productive conversations. So that dopamine hit, we need to get our dopamine from that rather than saying, "Oh, I own the libs. Oh, I own the cons," and that's how we get our dopamine hit. One of those is healthy. The other is very much unhealthy. That's what we have to choose between. Do we choose healthy, productive conversations, or do we choose mindless outrage and demonization? That's going to determine what happens in this country next. When people start valuing civil discourse in the way that we're supposed to, that's when this whole thing is going to turn around. I think that's going to happen later rather than sooner. But again, I could be wrong, and it's going to be up to us to prove me wrong. Thanks for watching this. Let me know what you think. I know I kind of rambled a bit, but I would like to hear your thoughts on this. We do need to have these conversations, and I appreciate you guys for listening and watching this far. But until next time, stay free, stay principled, and most importantly, stay ungovernable.